I feel like the biggest struggle of going from the traditional way to now this online way, and even just being an entrepreneur with like the different companies that I have, is going from preparing to be an amateur versus being a pro. When I worked for Cora, which was the last physical therapy clinical job I had, I just had to behave like an amateur every day. And so what I mean by that is an amateur to me is me being an average therapist, right? And pretty much the majority of my time, I was treating and getting paid, right? And I was spending very little time practicing my craft. I would go to work, I would treat patients. I treat a patient, I get paid, whether it's $25 an hour, $30 an hour, $35 an hour, whatever the case may be, okay? Whereas with being an entrepreneur, it's a whole different, ballgame. I'm spending the opposite amount of time not in the game, I'm practicing. And so when you guys are talking about, you're going to be doing stuff for clients and the instant gratification is not going to be there, well, you're just spending more time in prep work. You're learning your audience, you're learning what they're doing, you're learning what they want, you're learning what they don't want. And a lot of that is not the spotlight time, right? A lot of that is non-paid time, but it's a very important time. You're practicing your craft. But now I spend very little time actually doing the craft. I have a few times a year that I got to do the craft. I get paid like 100 to 300 times more during my actual game time than when it was as a traditional therapist. And so I think that's the difference. You go from behaving like an amateur to behaving like a pro.
This is Secrets for Success.
Welcome to the Secrets for Success podcast. This is a special episode because I have some of my favorite people here. We just finished 3 days of working together doing one of the Invincible models, our affiliate retreat. And so we're finishing it off by serving you all right now. So anyways, I want to introduce all of you and let's talk about the Invincible models and what it actually looks like in real time in people's lives. So why don't we go ahead and introduce ourselves and then we'll get into a little panel discussion. Is that cool? We'll start over here.
Hi, I'm Nicole Poppert. I'm an occupational therapist and I'm part of the Note Ninjas.
And I'm Stephanie Meyer, and I'm the PT with the Note Ninjas.
Note Ninjas. So what do you all do?
So we help PTs and OTs with treatment planning and documentation.
Okay, cool, awesome. Okay, next.
My name is Katie Blanchard, and I am a Schroth Method physical therapist who helps kids and teens, as well as adults who have scoliosis, to make sure that their curve doesn't progress and that they manage their spine throughout their lives.
Awesome, love it.
Nice. I'm Sarah Louie, and I help women runners with hip pain return to running pain-free as a PT and run coach.
Love it.
My name is Greg Louie. I am a physical therapist that helps skiers get back to skiing pain-free, and I do so virtually.
My name is Katie Todd. I'm a registered dietitian, and I help healthcare professionals build businesses based in blogging.
Cool. So one of the interesting things about all of you is that everybody here has primarily an online component to their business. So I guess my first question for whoever wants to start, maybe Katie, you can start first, is what was the motivation to want to go from the traditional way? Most of you were staff therapists, right? Staff therapists, staff RDs. What was the motivation for you to want to transition to online?
Sure. So I was working for, over 13 years, working for the Department of Veteran Affairs doing home care. And while I liked my job, I realized I didn't want to work with clients. And when you go to school for so long to become a healthcare professional and you realize oh gosh, this isn't my passion, I was kind of feeling stuck, well, what are the options? I didn't think I could be an entrepreneur because I thought there was only one model of entrepreneurship, and that was working with clients one-on-one. But I started discovering the world of online business, and really my focus of a lot of what I do is blogging. And my motivation for online business creating a brand that has passive income where I'm not always having to trade time for money was actually my kids. I wanted to be home with my kids. Actually, at this retreat, my son Gavin, he's upstairs, and he's a big part of my why, to be able to come here to Florida on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with my son. The flexibility of online business is just wild. I get to be present with my kids now. I get to drive them to school, pick them up from school. If something happens or if there's a school field trip, I don't even have to think twice. I don't have to request off time. I've built a business that fits my lifestyle to be present with my children while they're still in the home. Because I think anyone who's listening who has kids, it's like, time goes so fast when you have kids. Like literally you blink and these tiny humans are like, my son's taller than me. Of all of us
He's
here.
taller than all of us. He's taller than
all of us
so,
here.
yeah.
He's the youngest, he's 14 and he is the tallest.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my big motivation for online business, was to do something that I really loved and to have a lifestyle that allowed me to be present with those most important to me.
Cool. Greg, how about you?
Yeah, so when we came into Greg's world, we were working in clinic, and we really didn't know what to do. Sarah and I felt called to move to Hawaii to help out a friend at their clinic while some of their employees went on maternity and paternity leave. And while there, we were trying to start a business, and the way to market to our clientele was online. So we were kind of forced into doing online. And we realized when we were in Hawaii that, hey, actually doing online is something that can work out. And we both had our first clients while we were living there. It's crazy. So we came back to Seattle fully thinking we were going to go open an in-person clinic. And we realized, man, we don't have to pay the overhead of an in-person space. We don't have to hire a manager. We can actually do this. And, we still have an ability to see people in person if we want to. But really being in a hybrid model gives us the flexibility to say, like, hey, you can come see us. We can come see you. Or we can see you virtually anywhere. And we both have had clients from both the United States and internationally.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I also remember being a staff PT, and I think I was the youngest staff PT at my clinic, and there were like new moms, and there was a couple that had like kids that were in high school, and I just remember the moms that were there would have to like get to work early. One was like pumping, so she'd have to like take time off to pump and then not be able to see as many patients. Another mom was like only able to work like 4 hours a day. And I just remember like future pacing myself and being like, dang, like when I have a family and I like want to be able to like be with my kids and see my kids, like I can't afford to work 4 hours a day, like both time wise and like financially. So I was like, I need to do something that's going to like set me up for success in the future. And I feel like having an online component like has given me the freedom to like make more financially, and then also just have more time to like do other things.
For me, online business, just like the Louise and Katie Dodd, yes, it's the time flexibility and the lifestyle that I want for the future of having a future family, kids, so on and so forth. But also, at least in the world of scoliosis, I realized that I could only help so many people working with them one-on-one in a clinic. And the type of care I was giving in the clinic when I have to see 3 patients an hour wasn't the type of care that I wanted to give. So between giving poor quality care and only being able to serve the people that physically walk into the clinic or who are in my local area, I realized that going online, that opens up a huge world of people that I can reach, educate, and help. So the fact that I can help way more people online in a day, thousands of people compared to, just minimal in the clinic was a big driver for online business.
So after we left Topgolf yesterday, I talked to the person I was telling you about, and one of her concerns, so she's never heard of like, you can do this stuff online. She's been a practicing therapist for 20 years, like just working like crazy. And she's like, you can do this stuff online? I'm like, well, yeah, because like most of the things that you're doing with clients, you're kind of doing the same things with, it's individual people, but it's kind of your same, framework. And I think one of her hangups was like, can I give quality care online? So can I ask you a second question? Because you said I can give better care. So how were you able to pull that off?
Yeah, so, when I was in a busy, clinic, I'd have multiple patients at once, and you're working on one patient, doing hands-on, yelling to another patient across the room, put your left arm higher, things like that. You can work with people one-on-one virtually, yes, but also you can, meet them where they're at and teach them the concepts that they know to foster independence. And that's what I like the most about online is you're giving people the resources and the tools, and then it's up to them to implement and own, whatever diagnosis they have, and give them the resources to become independent in managing their condition, so they're not reliant on going to a PT 3 times a week for 6 weeks or a chiropractor twice a month for the rest of their life. So fostering that independence and just giving them the tools has been, really rewarding to see people manage their own conditions and how they feel.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What's your motivation? What was your motivation to go online? Yeah.
I guess I worked in the clinic for a really long time, and I tried all different settings, and I guess it was more like with my kids too, just taking off or when they got sick or something, and I had to call out and cancel my patients, and they would make me feel guilty. I feel like there was always guilt, like, oh, you're taking off, oh, you're going away, oh, your kid's sick, you're canceling on me. Like it just got to the point, like I was always feeling guilty somewhere, either at home or at work, and I wanted to be able to do it on my own. I also always wanted to teach. I always thought I would go into a school and teach, but then seeing how everything is, and I realized I could do it on my own, and I can have my own flexibility and teach what I want to teach and what I think would really help people. And so I thought that was cool. We were able to do it.
Yeah, I was a very young, motivated therapist wanting to climb the corporate ladder of let me just do all this work for free and burn myself out with overtime and just keep going. And, eventually I'll get a higher role at the job where I'm not, treating so many patients. And then I actually met Stephanie, and she was my first glimpse of the online world of entrepreneurship. And I saw her hustling, and she's a whole life stage ahead of me. So I kind of saw a glimpse into my future.
Wow, she said you're old? Whoa, geez.
No offense.
Yikes.
But I saw a little glimpse of my future of, the hustling mom of trying to, make ends meet and give her kids a better life. And I saw that, and, we started working together, and now I'm kind of where she was at, where we first met.
So you all were working together at the same hospital?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. It's interesting. As I'm hearing you guys talk, I realized that no wonder I've attracted all you guys, because my story is everybody's story. That was it. I wanted, Carrie wanted me home more. And I realized that there was no way, in my mind, I grew up thinking that I was, as long as I provided, just kind of the family dynamic, even if I wasn't emotionally available, that should be enough. And my wife's like, that's not it, So that was part of it, having the flexibility was a huge part, part of it. Future pacing, what my life is going to look like if I decided to have another child, and we ended up, doing that a few more times, and then realizing over time that I can actually give better care. It's going to be different care, but it actually is going to be better, and that's when I started working with patients, and it's kind of the same thing. So anyways, that's kind of interesting. All right. So let's talk about some of the drawbacks to online. Some of the hard stuff, we don't want to just say, oh, everything's perfect, but are there mental blocks, hurdles that you've had to overcome being in the online space?
Absolutely. First of all, you really need to have thick skin, and I learned that, early on. It was definitely, I was more behind the scenes. I didn't want to go on camera for the first couple years of our business, which is hard to think back to now because I feel like it's natural now, but it didn't start off that way. So I see a lot of mental blocks of people not wanting to be in front of the camera and being the face of their online business. But so that's definitely been a challenge for me.
In the beginning, it was hard to get started because I did have to work full time. So I guess just being able to, I had little kids at the time too. So being able to work full time, have my kids, and then still be able to do our Instagram posts and blogs and just be able to fit it all in was hard. And especially as you grow too, it actually gets even harder at the end before you're making enough to totally go. But it works somehow.
Yeah, awesome.
I think the hardest thing for me to realize in starting my online business was the lack of instant gratification that comes with online business. I think a lot of us in this generation were trained to love dopamine spikes, and just with social media and how our culture is. But online business, there's a lot of work that happens in the beginning that you don't see reward for right away. And that can be years of preparation. So, it's worth the hard work that's underneath the surface, even though you're not getting that instant return. Because when you do, hit that point where you get above the surface, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, I think for me, clinically, I really fill the gap when someone discharges from physical therapy and is getting back to distance running. And I think sometimes I run into this issue where it's I really do need you to be seen in person, or I need to get this thing checked. And maybe in the beginning I was oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I'm not able to fill this gap. But what has happened is I've been able to partner with different physical therapists really across the country and be hey, can you go to this person, go in for 1 to 2 sessions, and really and then they go in, get it checked out, and come back to me. And what it's created is this amazing alliance of physical therapists across the country that are trusting me and referring me their clients once they're done with traditional PT and need to be accelerated to the next level.
Very few people are able to do that. Most people don't want to refer out because they only can bring value in this in-person way. And so it's very rare that you see you see it a lot with physicians. It's hey, I'm a primary care. Okay, I'm going to send over to the ortho or send over to the cardiologist, et cetera. But how often do you see physical therapists refer to other physical therapists? Very rarely. So that's a really cool advantage that you have in the marketplace.
Yeah, to that point, I feel especially when you're doing return to sport testing, there's certain things that I can't see. So I'll refer to a sports testing facility for people to get tested. And in the beginning, starting out doing online, you're man, I am a manually trained therapist. I have my fellowship in manual therapy. How can I help these people get better without actually seeing them in person? And I think you realize once you have an independence of or create an independence, like Katie was talking about earlier with your clients, and they really understand what it takes them to get to the next level. But I think the biggest challenge for me is with online, there's so much flexibility. You can work from home, you can work from anywhere, but really understanding what is the most important thing to do that's going to drive the business forward. It can feel there's so many things, from building awareness online to trying to bring in new clients, that just trying to keep yourself focused on what it is to bring in new clients, even though you're not going to see that instant gratification. Can be really challenging when you're going at it. You're I know I'm doing the right things, but I'm not seeing it immediately. Has been challenging and continues to be.
I love this question because you could hear everyone talking and be oh my gosh, online business is amazing. And then when you get an online business and something doesn't work and you hit a roadblock, you think, what's wrong with me? But I think for me, one thing I always have to remember is with everything in life, including businesses, there's ups and downs. I think all of us could probably relate to. There's times in business that we're we're crushing it. And then times that we're what am I doing with my life? Mm-hmm. And so I even think back to how we were trained. When we went to school, we were taught, here's your job. You get a job, you go to work, you're paid 40 hours a week, and you just do this one thing. You just continue doing this one thing and you're going to get paid. Now with online business, in the beginning, you're doing some work. You're sowing seeds. You're doing things that will make a big impact and will make income later. But in the beginning, you might not be seeing those results. You're not seeing the cash flow in. You're not seeing that exchange hourly pay for hourly work like in a traditional job. But the beautiful thing about online business, if done right, you're sowing seeds and then eventually this harvest comes to where this is awesome. But life is always going to life. I think for me, one of the biggest challenges has been the ups and downs of personal things that can then impact all the other things. It's not just a matter of I'm going to go to my 40-hour a week job and get paid. even though life is lifing, I still have to show up in my business. I still have to do all of these things as the entrepreneur, understanding that there's seasons of plenty and seasons of not plenty. So I hope that makes sense. I know I'm kind of, even my brain as I'm talking is going all over the place, but I think one of the bigger struggles of entrepreneurship online is staying in the game. And we were talking about that a lot earlier, about how even though you're going to have some years it's amazing, some years you're like, oh gosh, this has been tough. The market's changing. What worked before doesn't work anymore. I've got to keep pivoting, twisting, turning. But as long as we stay in the game, as long as we have the right mindset, we surround ourselves with the right people, and we continue to have grit, then we will have success. So it's not all sunshine and roses, but honestly, I think probably everyone would agree, even with the struggle, I wouldn't trade this for anything.
So there's something that I want to add to this. I feel like the biggest struggle of going from the traditional way to now this online way, and even just being an entrepreneur with like the different companies that I have, is going from preparing to be an amateur versus being a pro. When I worked for Cora, which was the last physical therapy clinical job I had, I just had to behave like an amateur every day. And so what I mean by that is an amateur to me is me being an average therapist, right? And pretty much the majority of my time, I was treating and getting paid, right? And I was spending very little time practicing my craft. I would go to work, I would treat patients. I treat a patient, I get paid, whether it's $25 an hour, $30 an hour, $35 an hour, whatever the case may be, okay? Whereas with being an entrepreneur, it's a whole different, ballgame. I'm spending the opposite amount of time not in the game, I'm practicing. And so when you guys are talking about, you're going to be doing stuff for clients and the instant gratification is not going to be there, well, you're just spending more time in prep work. You're learning your audience, you're learning what they're doing, you're learning what they want, you're learning what they don't want, and a lot of that is not the spotlight time, right? A lot of that is non-paid time, but it's a very important time. It is, you're practicing your craft. But now I spend very little time actually doing the craft. I have a few times a year that I got to do the craft. I get paid like 100 to 300 times more during my actual game time than when it was as a traditional therapist. And so I think that's the difference. You go from behaving like an amateur to behaving like a pro. The pros are spending 4 to 10 times more of their time practicing than they are performing. The amateurs are spending 4 to 10 times more of their time performing than they are practicing. There's no reason to get better, right? And I think that to me is the difference. It's a huge mindset shift. Okay, so here's my next question to you all. So you're primarily doing online. Everybody here is primarily doing online. I know one of the big the kind of blocks for people is I want to have some type of in-person relationship. I feel like my relationship is going to be very distant with my clients. So is there any ways you've been able to combat that, overcome that?
I'll just say from a skiing standpoint, like all of my clients are my friends. So now if someone lives in Aspen, I can be like, oh, I'm going on a business trip to go ski with my client.
Gotcha. I like that.
So I have lots of different hats in my business. The more client-facing side, it's all virtual, all online. But then for the sides of my business where I help healthcare professionals build businesses based in blogging, we've been able to incorporate in-person events. I truly believe that nothing beats the power of in-person. And I think that online can complement in-person. So when I am working with clients, we do have opportunities where we have retreats, whether or not that's in Oregon, or we're actually next month in 2 months, we'll be in Albuquerque, New Mexico. But we get to go to all these places, spend time together, level up in our businesses, work on our mindset. And there's just so many cool ways that you can combine online business with in-person. It's not necessarily exclusively one. I do love online because it creates this whole flow of things, passive income, but you can still incorporate these in person. And even for my business, I'm in the Smart Success Healthcare Inner Circle, and we meet multiple times a year in person. So that's not necessarily me with my clients, but that is me with my people, being in the room with people who are doing amazing things and building each other up and inspiring each other. So even though I spend most of my days alone in my house with my cat and my dog, I still have a lot of like these in-person interactions that honestly, it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, I think part of running a successful online business is just like having a lot of conversations with people. So whether that's like in the DMs, hopping on Zoom with somebody, emails, like YouTube, and like all of the things, I just feel like there are so many people that I see on all of these different platforms, like very consistently. And then once they become a client of mine, like it's funny, like so many people will be like, I feel like I already know you and I've never like met you. And one like funny story of this is Christmas morning, I woke up to this email response from this woman that I've never met. And she was like, Sarah, I'm just so thankful for all of this stuff that you put out. She's like, you're like a little earthside angel. And I was like, it's Christmas morning. Like you took the time to write this. I've never met you. And then I got to hop on a call with her like a week later. And it was the sweetest thing.
Just like Sarah was saying, I think online fosters more touch points, which is really nice. You know, whether that's through a message or I use a lot of voice messaging that people really appreciate. And the fact that my clients online feel like they can always have access to me. So if something comes up, they don't have to wait a week for an in-person appointment to get an answer for something. Or if they have a win, they want to share it with me and get excited about it. You know, they have access to me more than if I just worked in a clinic. So the increase in touch points is definitely big. And then I know a lot of us here, we have memberships. So, you know, I think memberships are really great because they foster community and not just one-on-one relationships. So for me, I work with people with scoliosis, but I don't have scoliosis myself. So I can't relate to my clients in that way. But by having a membership that fosters community, there's these other relationships that form in between my people that is irreplaceable, that they can't get in person. So I think that's something that's really great about being online as well.
You're convincing me. Okay, all right.
Well, we also do a lot of like Zoom calls with our clients too. We have a membership for the most part, and we'll do a Zoom call like once a month to show people around, and we'll answer all their questions. We also get back to them, like she said, right away too. Like they don't have to wait. We are really good. Well, Nicole's really good at responding to emails, customer service. So they feel like they can always ask us anything, and that we're available. And we have like all different ways to get in touch with us. And we all share the same thing, that nobody likes documentation, and you know, so it's kind of like a community like bonding thing. Like, oh my God, here we go again. Or it's nice just to have other people to talk to and discuss things with.
Cool. All right. So you have anything, or you're good?
Same
Okay,
thing.
pretty much. All right. Gosh, I feel like the majority of us, or at least for me, I have the majority of my online businesses are hybrid. A good chunk of how I deliver the valuables is to people online, so that it allows me to be able to have a much bigger reach than just the Clearwater area. But I like to have my in-person, meetups as well, because we're all human, and I know that when we're in person, I can experience all 5 of the human senses. So I think, yes, we're online, but over time, especially if you really enjoy the people that you're working with, you'll find ways to be able to work with them, not just online. But without doing that, you wouldn't get access to people from Medford, Oregon, or Seattle, Washington, or Chicago, Jersey, and all that other stuff. So, anyways, okay, let's finish up with this. You realize a lot of people want to go online, okay, and they want advice. And so, can each of you give the people that are listening to this one piece of advice that you wish you had when you started, or something that you feel like everybody should have, getting started in this online world?
I would say with online, you really need to find creative ways to connect with your audience. And that's like probably the most important thing, is like you need to get to know what your audience is, and who it is, and what they want exactly. And from there, we didn't know we were going to take our business in the direction that we took it in with the membership, and here we are, and it's going well. So really get to know your audience.
Awesome.
I think it's good in the beginning not to be tied to exactly what you want, because sometimes that's not what everybody else needs. You can pivot a little bit. You still want to enjoy it because you're not going to want to work on it all the time. But maybe just like we did, we went on Instagram, just kind of like just threw some stuff out there and saw what stuck and what got people involved. Because you might think like, oh, I want to help them avoid pain with something, but nobody really cares about that, Like they care about more of this specific thing. So just really seeing where your audience is at, not being tied down in the beginning.
I think before you sell anything online, you need to make sure that your audience knows, likes, and trusts you. If they don't trust you, they're not going to buy from you. So, building your brand is, really important, but also, not just establishing yourself as an expert, but the one who can, make it their level and make it understandable, so that they, can then believe in themselves, that they can, invest in whatever your program is and get results from it. So, fostering that, trust factor, I think is really big, and that takes time.
Yeah, I think one thing that was challenging for me in the beginning was like when I left clinic or was kind of starting the business, no one at my clinic knew what I was doing. Like they didn't understand what I was doing. And I think as you go online, it's going to be non-traditional, and like your coworkers are going to be like, what are you doing? What is this? And that's just going to kind of be the norm moving forward. So like linking up with someone who gets it, like finding someone in Greg's world that has an online business. I feel like that's why Greg and I have been able to be successful, because we have each other and we're like, yeah, this is really weird what we're doing, but like we're just going to keep doing it because it's working. And eventually the people that were like, wait, what are you doing? They're going to be like, wait, what are you doing? Can I do that?
Yeah.
We've had a few friends that have tried to like start online, and I think the biggest thing that like causes them to fail is one, the fear of like getting started, but then also like when you get started, not seeing like the return on what the work you're putting in, and just being like really, really consistent. I would say like what helped us start is there was a 30-day challenge where we committed to posting every single day for 30 days, and like we didn't really see any traction from that, but we just created a habit of doing that for 30 days, and we just continue that ever since. And I think since day one of posting, we basically tried to be really consistent in serving our audience and understanding what they want. And by you doing that, whether you're still working in clinic or you're just quitting your job, to Katie's point, like it allows you to build trust, because if you're serving your audience every day, they're going to get to know who you are really, really well.
I think my tip would be open to the opportunities. One of the coolest things about online is that there are so many different things that you can do. They say like there's a million ways to make $1 million. And as you've heard from everyone here, we all do very different things. I think one of the problems people sometimes get into is we find someone like, oh, look, they're making money, I'm going to do that. But it's not really a fit for you. I said early on how I knew I didn't want to work with clients, and I thought working with clients was the only way. But being open to, okay, I know I want to help people. I know I want to be online. I know that I want to have a flexible lifestyle and make impact, but then being open to the opportunities is really going to serve you a long way, instead of being like in a box that you're like, oh, this box doesn't work, so online business doesn't work. One of the things I love about the way Greg teaches is he teaches that there are multiple ways to serve your audience. There are multiple vehicles for online business. So be open to the opportunities and know that there is something for everyone in the online world.
That's awesome. I'm gonna chime in on this one. I think probably one of the biggest pieces of advice that I could give you all is to embrace being the curious person versus being positioned as an expert. As a physical therapist, when I was working in the clinic, I knew that people were coming to me because I was supposed to have the answers, right? And that's actually totally opposite of when you are starting as an entrepreneur. You can't position yourself as I have all the answers. You have to position yourself as I am curious and I want to figure out what are the problems that you're having and see if I can maybe help you with those problems, or maybe I can point you to someone that has those problems. And so you're actually positioning yourself that you don't know a lot. That's really hard. It's really hard when you spend all this money, this time, this energy to get this title. And part of having that title is that you're supposed to be smarter than other people in a certain area. Now, I just find that as an entrepreneur, it's very, very difficult to win when you're positioning yourself that you know everything. It's all about the people. The people vote. The people win every time. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that you're going to have to do. So I think this is interesting because we're doing the Invincible Challenge, the 20th to the 24th. I don't know when this is coming out. So either if the challenge hasn't come out yet, sign up. If it has come out, then sign up again. Okay, but anyways, the cool thing about the Invincible Challenge is that I show people multiple business models besides just treating patients in a traditional way that they can use to be able to impact people, to be able to solve people's problems, and also solve your problems too. And many of you need to figure out a way to be able to make more money. You want to be able to figure out a way to be able to make more money and serve your family and just the things that are important to you. And so we do that through the different models. And so those models are the info model. Those models are the affiliate model. Those models are the membership model, solution-based offers, and I'll even show people how to create agencies. And so those are for the people that are doing business to business. So who here, just so they know, who does the info model? You do info, and you guys do info as well. And so basically info is, I have information, I've been able to take all the information, all the experiences that I've had, I'm able to take it and put it into a system, a framework, and it's something that someone does not have to specifically be in front of me in order for them to get value from. So pretty much the majority of us have some version of that. Everybody here has the affiliate model. That's why they're here, because they actually promoted one of my programs, which is a program that pretty much all of them have taken in some capacity. And they were able to share with their audiences that actually want to be able to do their version of what it is that they've done. Who here has a membership model? Right? So the membership model is where you are maybe doing a combination of information. You're bringing a community of people together that all have a very particular problem, and you are solving it, not just through information, but through resources and through having the people come together and help each other out with the problems that they're having. Solutions-based offers. You guys do that, right? So solutions-based offers are for those of you that still want to work at least in some capacity on a clinical level. So instead of just treating patients via insurance or treating them for cash-based services, we actually charge people based on a result that we can get them. And we're able to add not just our clinical skill set, but we're able to add our online components as well into this package. And so it's a package based on a result. So the faster we get them the result, the more money we make, right? And then the last one is agency, and that's what we have in our business. And we have a software-based agency where people are using our software to be able to do all the things they need to do within their business. And we've started a virtual assistant agency as well that I had with a prior company that's still going, but now I'm doing it within Smart Success Healthcare. So I personally believe that those are the models that we should be using today to be able to adapt to the crazy world that we're living in. And the reality is that things are more expensive, and things have changed so much, and so many businesses are going out of business. And I believe it's not because their services aren't good, it's just the way that they're delivering them is outdated. And so that's what we do, and that's what we want to show you guys January 20th to the 24th, and all the other times that we do the Invincible Challenge. So if you haven't signed up already, and you know these people, they have a link, okay? But if you don't know them, then go to the link that you'll see below, all right? Thank you guys for being a part of this, and we'll see you on the challenge.
That was easy.